Ijero was a small town, but it had a big mouth. In Ijero, beauty was like money. Beauty could open doors. Beauty could get a woman good husband, good gifts, good life. It was not enough to have a pretty face. Not in Ijero. A woman needed to walk like thunder, shake the ground, and stop traffic with her backside. If a woman walked on the road, they wanted the ground to shake small, like drum in a festival. If she passed, they wanted men to turn and forget what they were doing. Women in Ijero said, "A true woman must walk like thunder." Men in Ijero said, "A true woman must scatter my eyes when she passes." That was the thinking in that town. And that was the trouble for Salem. Salem was beautiful, too beautiful. Her skin was rich and smooth like cocoa butter. Her lips were full and soft. Her cheekbones sat high like a queen. Her eyes were calm, like cool water in a clay pot. When she entered a room, men stopped talking. When she smiled, men forgot their names. Sometimes men even stuttered when she greeted them. "Good afternoon," she would say. They would laugh with shy hands on their neck. "Yes, good afternoon," they would answer. But it always ended the same way. The moment she turned around, their faces changed. Their eyes dropped. Their smiles faded, because Salem had what the town called a disappointing back. Flat, smooth, almost not there. No shake, no bounce. Nothing to make men turn and say, "Hey, look at that." The women in Ijero would cover their mouths and whisper to each other at the well. "Such a waste of face," one woman would say. "How can God give someone this kind of fine and forget the back?" Another woman would say. Some even laughed loud on purpose when she passed, so she could hear. "She is beautiful," one man would say to his friend. But from behind, "Number, number, I cannot manage that." Another man would laugh and slap his friend's shoulder. "Brother, don't worry. Just walk in front of her. Do not walk behind her." They would laugh like goats. Salem heard these things every day. She heard, "Her back is like a wall." She heard, "Her body is like plank." She heard, "Ah, front is woman, back is boy." The words were sharp. The words cut her soft heart like knife cuts ripe mango. But she did not let them see her bleed. She held her head high. She walked tall. Her steps were slow and proud. She did not bend. She did not cry where they could see. Some few men claimed they didn't care. Among those few, 3 had the courage to marry her, and each one left her because of that same reason. Amadi was the first, a banker who loved reading books and claimed to love women for their minds. The first day he met her, he said, "You are beautiful, Salim. Not because of what people see, but because of what you carry." Inside, Salim smiled shyly. "People don't say that often." Amadi laughed. "That's because people don't see well. I'm not like them. I love your mind, your heart, your smile." For the first time, Salim felt peace. His words were like balm on her wounds. They sat under trees, talked about life, about books, about future. Amadi would read poems aloud, his voice warm. He said, "I don't care what anyone says. I only care about how you make me feel." Soon, they married. It was a small wedding, only family, few friends, and quiet joy. Salem wore a cream dress. Her smile was soft but real. When they danced, she leaned her head on his shoulder and whispered, "Thank you for choosing me." He kissed her forehead and said, "I will always choose you." For 6 months, life was sweet. Laughter filled their house. Amadi would come home early, bringing suya wrapped in paper. They ate together, teased each other, prayed together. Sometimes at night, they lay on the mat, talking till dawn. Salem would say, I'm happy. Amadi would reply, Me too. But slowly, something began to fade. Amadi stopped looking at her the same way. He became quiet at dinner. He started reading his books longer, deeper, not hearing when she spoke. One evening, Salem found him sitting on the bed, his eyes far away. She sat beside him. What's wrong? She asked softly. He didn't answer. His hands trembled slightly. Amadi, she said again, touching his arm. Talk to me. He looked down at the floor, his voice low. I'm trying, Salem. I swear I'm trying. She frowned. Trying? What do you mean? He took a deep breath, his face tired. Desire, he said quietly. Attraction. I try to hold it, but when I see other women, I feel cheated. The words hit her like thunder. She blinked fast, her lips shaking. Cheated? Amadi, I'm your wife. I know, he said quickly, his eyes red. I thought I could manage it. I thought love was enough. But this town, this culture, people talk, they laugh, they make jokes. And when I see them, when I see other women with what you don't have, something dies inside me. Salem stared at him, her throat burning. So all your words were lies? He shook his head. No, I loved you. I still do. But not the way a man should love a woman. Tears rolled down her cheeks. Please don't leave me. He stood slowly, folding his shirt into a small bag. I'm sorry, he said, his back to her. I can't keep pretending. Salim covered her face with both hands. Her sobs were quiet, like rain hitting dry sand. Amadi paused at the door, looked at her once, and walked out. The sound of the door closing was small, but it broke something deep inside her. That night, Salem sat by the window till morning. She looked at the sky, empty and pale. A bird flew past, free, careless. She whispered, Even love is not enough for a woman like me. And when the sun rose, she stood, wiped her tears, and prepared herself for another day of whispers. The first marriage had ended, and her heart had learned. Even kind words can lie when beauty is judged from behind. After Amadi left, Salem told herself she would never love again. But time has a way of softening pain, the same way rain softens dry soil. And that was when Ijero came. Ijero was a tailor from Lagos. He was calm, quiet, and kind. He spoke slowly, like a man who had seen too much of life, and now only wanted peace. The first day they met at the market, he smiled gently and said, I like your spirit. You look like a woman who can bring calm to a man's heart. Salem smiled faintly. I don't think my spirit is calm anymore, he chuckled. Then let me help you find it. Ejiro wasn't like other men. He didn't look at her body before talking to her. He didn't make jokes about women or stare at the back of those passing by. He treated Salem like a person, not like a body. Soon, people began to whisper again. The tailor from Lagos is marrying the woman with no backside, they said. Ejiro didn't care. Let them talk, he told her. They will get tired. Their marriage was quiet but peaceful. Ejiro called her my comfort. Every evening when she served him food, he would smile and say, Your soup is better than city food. And she would laugh softly. Sometimes he kissed her forehead and said, You are my rest, Salem. For the first time in a long while, Salem felt safe again. She cooked with joy. She sang while sweeping. She thought maybe, just maybe, happiness had found her again. But peace in Ijero never lasts long. One evening, she noticed he had stopped holding her hand. At first, she thought he was just tired. Then he began to walk faster when they went to church. leaving her a few steps behind. He stopped sitting beside her at events. He no longer looked at her the way he used to. Salem began to worry. Ejiro, she said one night as they sat eating, have I done something wrong? He didn't answer. He kept chewing slowly, his eyes fixed on his plate. After a long silence, he said quietly, do you know what men call you behind your back? Salim's hand stopped mid-air. What do they say? He dropped his spoon, sighing. They say you're shaped like a broom. The room went silent. The only sound was the crackle of the lantern beside them. Salem's eyes filled with tears. Ejiro, she whispered, you told me you didn't care. I tried, he said quickly, but people stare. They laugh. And I feel embarrassed. Embarrassed? Her voice broke. By me? He looked away. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to hurt you, she whispered. But you did. That night, she didn't sleep. She lay awake, staring at the roof, hearing his words echo again and again, shaped like a broom. Her heart felt like it had been squeezed dry. The next morning, Ejiro didn't speak much. He left early for work, and after that, the distance between them grew like a wall. He stopped coming home early. He stopped calling her my comfort. A month later, he folded his clothes into a small box. Salem stood by the door, silent. He didn't meet her eyes. I think we both need something different, he said softly. Then he left. The wind that blew through the window that evening was cold. Salem sat on the floor, her hands in her lap, her heart numb. 2 marriages, 2 heartbreaks, and one shame that refused to leave her shadow. She whispered to herself, maybe I was not made for love. The night was quiet. Only the crickets answered her. After Ijero left, Salem stopped waiting for love. She told herself, 2 men have left. That is enough. She spent her days alone, sewing clothes and helping her mother in the garden. But one evening, under the orange sunset, love found her again. This time, wearing a schoolteacher's smile. His name was Bernard. He was gentle, soft-spoken, and calm like evening rain. He always carried a small notebook filled with poems. The first time he saw Salem at the market, he smiled shyly and said, you have the kind of face that makes silence sweet. Salem laughed lightly. You like to talk like poet. He grinned. I am one sometimes. They met again and again, by the well, by the church path, by the road leading to the school. He never joked about her body. He never stared rudely. Instead, he said, your smile is sunrise. Your eyes are peace. He would write her short poems on brown paper and read them aloud under the mango tree. Every word came from a heart that seemed true. Salem tried to resist at first, but Bernard's love was like soft rope. Gentle, but it wrapped around her heart until she could not pull free. Soon they married. The church was small but full of laughter. When the choir sang, Bernard looked at her and whispered, you are my forever. For the first time in years, Salem believed it. Their home was full of joy. He kissed her forehead before work, and when he came back, he brought small gifts, roasted corn, chin-chin, or flowers he picked by the road. He told everyone in town, that's my wife, and smiled proudly. Even the people who used to mock her started to say, maybe she is lucky this time. Months passed, and one morning, Salem discovered she was pregnant. When she told Bernard, he shouted for joy and lifted her off her feet. He danced around her, clapping his hands like a child. We will have a baby girl, he said, and she will have your beautiful smile. Salem smiled, her eyes wet. And maybe your patience. He laughed. Let her have both. When the baby came, she was small, soft, and bright-eyed. They named her Kemi. She was Bernard's pride. He told everyone about her. He said, "My daughter will grow wise and kind." But 3 months after the birth, things began to change. Bernard started to look at Salem differently. He no longer wrote poems. He no longer called her sunrise or peace. One evening, he looked at her and said coldly, "You've added weight." Salem smiled softly. "I just had a baby, Bernard." He frowned. "Yes, but the weight went to the wrong place. The back is still flat." Salem froze, her hands trembling. She turned away quietly, holding her baby close. From that day, Bernard changed. He came home late. He stopped holding her in public. He avoided her eyes. When she tried to talk, he said, "I'm tired." When she reached for his hand, he pulled away. Then one morning, before sunrise, Bernard stood at the doorway with his bag. "You must go," he said. Salem blinked, thinking she heard wrong. "Go? Where?" "I can't do this anymore," he said, not looking at her. "I thought I could, but I can't." Her lips trembled. "Bernard, please. We have a child." He said nothing. Salem stood there in silence, her baby asleep in her arms, her heart breaking quietly inside her chest. She packed her clothes into a small bag. Before leaving, she looked at him one last time, the man who once called her sunrise. Her eyes were firm, wet but strong. "I may not have what this town wants," she said softly, "but my daughter will. I swear it. She will have what they all worship. She will have the biggest backside in this town." Then she lifted Kemi into her arms, wrapped her in a cloth, and walked out. Her steps were steady, her shadow long, and from that day, Salem's pain began to turn into a vow that would shape the story of the child she carried. From that day, Kemi became Salem's whole world, her reason to wake, her reason to live, and her way to fight back at the world that once mocked her. Salem looked at her baby and saw not just a child, but a promise. Every morning, she would sit beside Kemi's cradle, her fingers tracing the baby's tiny legs, her eyes full of strange hope. "She will not suffer my shame," she whispered again and again. "This one will not walk through laughter like I did." As Kemi grew, Salem watched her body the way a farmer watches his crops. Every stretch, every sign of growth, every new curve. She noticed it like a prophecy slowly unfolding. By the time Kemi turned 16, she had become a sight to behold in Abeokuta. Her body had bloomed into what her mother once dreamed of. Full, bold, and graceful. Her backside was round like calabash, smooth like ripe mango. Everywhere she went, eyes followed. When she walked to the market, traders stopped mid-sale. Men forgot their change. Women turned to look. Boys ran from far just to carry her basket, even when it was empty. Sometimes she frowned. "Why are they always staring, Mama?" Salem only smiled. "Because you are special, my child. They are seeing what I never had." People began to whisper. "Ah, this one is blessed," some said. Others lowered their voices. "No, something is not natural there. Her mother must have rubbed something on her." A few laughed quietly. That woman has finally used charm. But Salem didn't care. Every whisper was music to her ears. Every stare was a small victory. Each time a man turned to look at her daughter, she smiled to herself. When people came to visit, she would say, "Kemi, stand and greet them properly." Kemi would rise shyly, greet, and sit back, and Salem's chest would lift with pride. At night, as the moonlight fell through the window, Salem would lie beside her daughter, and whisper softly, "Sleep, my beauty. You are my answer to the world to Salem." Kemi was not just her child anymore. She was proof that shame could give birth to glory. And every day, Salem's heart swelled with both pride and fear because she knew the same eyes that once mocked her were now watching her daughter with hunger. One evening, Salem sat quietly by the doorway, her eyes watching the road disappear into the distance. Kemi was beside her, braiding her hair. The night was calm. The air smelled of roasted corn and dust. Suddenly, Salem said, "Kemi, we are going back home." Kemi stopped braiding. "Back home?" she asked. "Yes," her mother said firmly. "We are going back to Ijero." Kemi frowned. "To that town that mocked you?" Salem's eyes were steady. "Yes, let them see what I have raised." That night, Kemi didn't sleep much. She lay on the mat, staring at the ceiling, wondering why her mother wanted to go back to the same place that once made her cry. But Salem had made up her mind. Her heart was full of pride and something else, something quiet but heavy. They packed their things in one small bag the next morning. Kemi wore her favorite wrapper, and Salim tied her headscarf tight. The bus they entered was old and noisy, but it carried them through hills and red roads, past rivers and palm trees. The journey back to Ijero was quiet. The bus moved through villages and hills. Kemi looked out of the window, unsure. When they arrived, the town trembled. People gathered at the junction. Some didn't recognize Salem immediately, but when they did, the eyes widened, not at her, but at the young woman beside her. "Who is that?" someone whispered. "That's Salem's daughter. The same Salem they used to call a dry stick." "Wow, you mean this shape came from that woman? She is going to cause problems." Men started coming around the house, at first pretending. "Ah, Salem, we just came to greet you. It's been a long time." They brought yams, palm oil, a bag of gari. But their eyes were fixed on Kemi. Kemi noticed it. The way their glances dragged, the way they licked their lips silently. "Mama," she said one day, "these men look at me like I'm food." Salem laughed. "You should be proud. They are admiring you. When I was your age, not one man even looked twice." "Mama, I don't like it." "You will learn to like it," Salem said. "That's the only way to survive in this world." Then one day, something happened. The afternoon sun was bright and heavy. The market was full. Women shouting prices, goats bleating, palm oil shining in bottles. Then, suddenly, a shiny black Lexus rolled in and stopped near the stalls. The car's doors glimmered like mirror. Everyone turned to look. From the car stepped a tall man in a spotless white kaftan. He wore dark glasses and carried himself like someone used to being obeyed. People began to whisper, "Who is he? He must be from the city." The man smiled warmly at the traders and asked, "Please, where can I find Salem?" A woman pointed. "Her house is behind that mango tree." When he reached the compound, Salem was sitting outside fanning herself. "Good afternoon, Ma," he greeted politely. She nodded. "Good afternoon. Who are you?" He smiled again. "My name is Alhaji Sani. I'm from Lagos. Your cousin in Abeokuta told me about your daughter. She has great potential. I can help her find good work in the city." Salem's eyes narrowed a little. "Work or marriage?" He laughed softly, showing white teeth. "Work, Ma. Real work. Lagos is full of opportunities." Just then, Kemi came out from the house carrying a bowl of water. She greeted him shyly. "Good afternoon, sir." Alhaji's eyes widened as he looked at her. He smiled slowly. Ah, Lagos will love her. Kemi placed the bowl down and went back inside. But Salem had already seen the way he looked at her daughter. That evening, she couldn't eat. When the moon came out, she sat by the window, staring at the stars. The whole town was quiet, but her mind was loud. She thought of the years of shame, the laughter, the gossip. She thought of the men who had left her and the promises that broke. She looked toward the room where Kemi slept peacefully. Her lips moved in a whisper, only the wind could hear. "This girl will bring me peace," she said softly, "even if I must push her to it." The next morning, Salem woke before dawn. She swept the compound, washed her face, and stood at the door. When Kemi came out rubbing her sleepy eyes, her mother said, "Pack your things. You will go with Alhaji. He will help you." Kemi's eyes widened. "Mama, I don't even know him." Salem's voice was firm. "I didn't ask for your opinion. I have suffered enough, Kemi. This is your chance. Take it." Kemi wanted to speak, but she saw the look in her mother's eyes, strong, stubborn, unshakable. So she kept quiet. By noon, the Lexus was back at the gate, shining under the sun. Kemi wore her best dress, holding a small brown bag. Her heart was heavy. She looked at her mother one last time. Salem adjusted her scarf and said quietly, "Remember who you are. Make me proud." Kemi nodded slowly. She climbed into the car, her eyes wet but silent. The engine roared. Dust rose behind the car as it began to move. People stopped what they were doing to watch. Said Mama Ronki, standing at her stall. "That girl is too beautiful. I hope she doesn't get into trouble." Others nodded quietly. Salem stood at the gate long after the car had disappeared. She didn't move. She didn't blink. Her hands trembled as she whispered to the sky, "God, let her return with blessings. Let her not come back empty like me." Little did she know, her daughter, Kemi, was being used to satisfy men in Lagos with her big backside. Every night, no rest. But Salem believed she was having a good life. The wind blew softly, carrying her words away, words born from love, but heavy with fear. The seasons changed. The rains came and went, and still Salem waited. Each evening she sat by the window, staring at the dusty road that led out of Ijero, hoping to see that black Lexus again. Her heart prayed silently. Let her come back safe. Let her come back smiling. Then, one hot afternoon, months later, the sound of a car engine broke the silence. The same Lexus stopped in front of the gate. Salem ran out, her wrapper flying behind her. The car door opened slowly. Kemi stepped out, alone. She was taller now, her skin still smooth, her beauty still bright. But her eyes, they were different. No laughter, no sparkle, just quiet, deep quiet. She greeted softly, "Good afternoon, Mama." Salem reached for her hand, smiling with trembling lips. "My daughter, you are back." Kemi nodded. "Yes, Mama, I am back." No driver stepped out. No gifts, no luggage, only silence and dust. That evening, Kemi sat alone outside, watching the setting sun. Salem brought her food. "Eat, my child. I'm not hungry," Kemi said quietly. Days passed. Kemi didn't talk about Lagos. She only worked on the farm, fetched water, taught the small children how to read, and cooked quietly. Men still stared when she passed, but she no longer cared. Her walk was calm, her eyes steady, her smile small but distant. At night, when everyone else slept, Salem sometimes watched her daughter sit alone, looking at the moon. And one night, Salem finally spoke. I wanted you to be strong, she said softly. Kemi turned to her. Salem's eyes were wet. But I see now. I gave you my shame instead. Kemi reached out and held her mother's hand. Mama, she said gently, I don't hate you. I just wish you taught me to love myself, not to fight the world through me. Salem nodded slowly, her tears falling onto her lap. You are right, my daughter. And in that silence, the pain between mother and daughter began to melt, like ice meeting sunlight. Word spread around Ijero. Kemi was back. The same girl who went to Lagos. The same girl whose beauty had turned heads. But she was not the same anymore. She no longer wore bright clothes. She no longer smiled at the attention. Instead, she spent her time teaching little girls under the big mango tree behind her mother's house. They came in groups, shy, curious, eager. Auntie Kemi, they asked, how did you survive in Lagos? She smiled softly. By learning who I am. They leaned closer. Tell us, Auntie. And she told them quietly, don't let anyone reduce you to your body. Beauty fades. Wisdom lasts. If you must grow, let it be in your mind, not just your shape. The girls listened. Some cried. Some went home thoughtful. And soon, everyone in the town began to respect her. They called her Auntie Kemi the Wise. Years passed. One evening, Salem fell ill. Her body grew weak, her hands thin. Kemi stayed beside her, night and day. She fed her, washed her, and wiped her tears when pain came. My daughter, Salem whispered one night, you turned my shame into strength. Kemi smiled through her tears. Rest, Mama. You have done enough. When Salem died, the whole town came to bury her. Even those who once laughed at her stood quietly, heads bowed. They no longer called her the flat one. They called her the woman who raised wisdom. That evening, when the sky turned orange and the air was still, Kemi walked to the village well. The same well where her mother once stood in shame. She looked into the water, her reflection calm and strong. Then she whispered, let them chase shadows if they wish. I have found myself. The wind blew softly, carrying her words into the fading light. Moral of the story: beauty without wisdom brings pain. A mother's wounds should never become her daughter's burden. True beauty lives in dignity, not desire. I hope you enjoyed the story. If so, please like the video, comment what you learned from the tale, share with friends and family, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more African folk tales just like this one. Thank you.